Hello everyone and welcome to Werven's World and welcome to my guide about how to choose your weapons in Cloud Pirates. Now this guide is not supposed to tell you which weapon you should choose or which one is the best because it's very situational. However, it is aimed to basically give you an overview on how to look at weapon statistics, how to interpret them and how to decide for yourself what fits your playstyle. So let's get started. The first thing you'll notice when you open the device panel of a ship is all the modules you can install as well as these statistics here, and whenever you hover over another weapon you can see the statistics change. So how do you interpret whether this change is good or bad? Well, let's first look at the basics. Let's look at an easy weapon, the main weapon of a Vigilant for example. As you can see here it says that it does 62 damage per shot. We can shoot 1 time per second and after 3.4 seconds it overheats and then we have to wait for 5 seconds until we can shoot again. Now if we put this into a formula we can do 1 shooting rate per second times 3.4 because we can shoot for 3.4 seconds, then we do 62 damage per shot and that should give us the damage before we overheat. However, the damage that we calculate from that formula I just typed is 210.8, not 413. Why is this? Well, there is a crucial statistic missing from these statistics here, and that is how many bullets you actually fire. In this case, with the Vigilant main weapon shoots 2 shots per time you shoot. So actually we have to multiply this by 2. That arrives at a number of 421.6, which is close enough to this. So there seems to be some rounding going on at different places and I never really managed to get the numbers completely correct, but this is basically the damage that we can do before we overheat. Now, if we assume that we just keep holding the mouse button and we never allow any time to cool down, so basically we go shooting until we overheat and then we recharge again for 5 seconds, basically that means that over 5 plus 3.4 is 8.4 seconds, we do 413 damage because during these 5 seconds we cannot do any damage. So basically what we have to do is divide this by the 8.4 and then we arrive at 50.2 here, or in this case 49.5, and that's our damage per second. However, this is completely assuming that you don't take into account overheating at all, because of course you could shoot a couple of times, let your weapon cool down a little bit and then continue shooting instead of just straight up shooting. But this is how these statistics work. One thing to be careful of though is to take these things with a grain of salt or not to interpret them too literally. For example, here it says time to overheat 3.4 seconds, but I shoot once per second. Well, I can't shoot 0.4 times, so what does this mean? Well, I would think that this would mean that you can first shoot 3 seconds and then you still have 0.4 seconds, so you could still shoot once. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. As you can see here in this video, I only get 3 shots off before I overheat. However, this time to overheat, the 0.4 seconds, is still taken account into the formula. So again, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt and also try these things out in game. One thing you should take into account is that there are so-called volley cannons, and they can be recognized by these 3 bullets here, and volley cannons basically means that this gun will shoot 6 bullets at once, and this can sometimes be very hard to count yourself, but it's good to know that they shoot 6. I think there are some volley cannons that shoot more than 6, but I haven't encountered them myself yet, so at least at the beginning levels they shoot 6 bullets each, so basically damage per shot has to be multiplied by 6 to find out how much damage you would do if one time that you fire hits everything. So how does this matter? Why should we look at these statistics in order to actually choose what cannon we want? Well, look at this glint for example. We have the main cannon which does a lot of damage. It does 800 damage and we shoot 2 bullets, so basically it's 1600 damage when we fire once. However, the time to overheat is 0.1 second and we shoot 0.5 times per second. What this means is basically after the first shot it immediately overheats, so we have only 1 shot and then we have to wait for 25 seconds before we can shoot again. So actually the DPS isn't great, but you can very nicely assassinate targets with like this huge damage output very quickly. Now, what other options do we have? What if we're not very good at aiming, or we tend to go for quick ships, and what if we miss? We have to actually wait for 25 seconds. well, then you can go for a weapon that has a more consistent damage output. For example, here, this spear heavy cannons. It has basically, well, it has a little bit more DPS, you could say, but it does much less damage as an alpha strike. Basically, it only does 680 when you shoot once. However, you can shoot once per second, but you have 2.3 seconds to shoot. So this means if you miss the first time, you can actually fire again, or you could fire a couple of times if you wait enough times to let it cool down a little bit and then fire again, cool it down a little bit and fire again. So you can have a very consistent damage output, and if you actually don't let it overheat at all, you will have much more than 68 DPS. So this one is much more suited to having a consistent damage output, while this one is much more suited to assassinating targets and flying away, waiting for your recharging time. So this is how you interpret these stats in order to kind of make a decision. What do you want? Do you want this or do you want that? Of course, there are many things that you want to take into account before choosing a weapon. For example, here, this weapon here, the Astra Special Cannon, it slows down the target by 55%, but it's a bit less good. It has less range and a little bit less DPS. However, if you play with some friends on voice chat and you can coordinate your attacks where you slow down someone and someone jumps in with a thunder and throws some torpedoes at them, this gun might actually be better, even though it does less DPS. You also have a gun, for example, where's the Bastion, here it is, that has growing damage. So if you're good at leading targets and keep consistent damage on them, then this one will actually, the more you hit them, the more damage it will do, up to 300%. Of course, if this is not your playstyle, then you might want to go for a normal cannon or a volley cannon. Also, there are these healing ships, for example the Victoria, that either has a cannon that will make your allies more resistant to damage, or you can actually heal your damage from your allies. So yeah, there are many things to take into account, but I hope this video gave you an overview on how to make a good decision on what you want to buy for weapons, because of course gold can be in short supply, and especially with the later ships, tier 2, tier 3 and probably also higher, the weapons cost a lot, so you might want to make a more educated decision on what you want to buy, and I hope this guide will help you doing that. So I hope it was useful, and see you next time.